Thank you, Dennis. All right, let's welcome our filmmakers, Stephen Tronicek for One Sentence, Jet and Antonio L. Rodriguez for Glory Us, and Carter Amelia Davis for Homemade Gatorade. Welcome. All right, Stephen, we'll start with you. One Sentence, the first film in the program. Who is this guy? Why him? How did you meet him? Is he a relative of yours? Tell me about this guy.
Oh, that guy's name is Cliff Mirabella. He's an actor in St. Louis.
Okay.
He's actually been in a few films that I've made. Some of the films that my brother and I directed together. I have a twin brother who also makes films. We needed to shoot one day of live action for this, so I called him up. And I was like, hey, come on out. And he did, and it was great.
Okay, but is he like an author? Is he a writer? What is this guy?
Oh, just the character?
The character, yeah. That's what I mean.
That's an interesting question. No, I think he's just like all of us. He's just trying to figure out what we're doing here, man.
Okay. So tell me about the animation process that you used. You told me earlier outside you were influenced by Don Hertzfeldt. We had his films here yesterday, so it's kind of cool that you're kind of bridging that gap. We ended with his movie yesterday. We're starting with yours today, so I like that kind of accidental symmetry. So yeah, are you an animator as well, like a full-time animator, or
no? Actually, nothing like that. I conceived of the fact that part of this needed to be animation, and I was like, okay, how do I do this? I don't know how to use any of these programs. So I took a printer scanner and I took some construction paper and I scanned it thousands of times, and eventually it turned into the movie that you see today.
Okay. And what about what he says in the film, like, do you relate to the most? Because he's like spilling out a lot of philosophy and a lot of, it kind of goes all over the place in an interesting way. But I'm wondering, what do you take from it the most?
Well, I mean, I think it's about radical acceptance. The fact that the most mundane, horrible stuff is happening to us constantly. You'll kind of see that in the animation. The guy jumps out of the airplane. I hope somebody noticed that there's no parachute on that guy. And the guy's just, and he's talking about the experience of his 20s, that sort of thing. And then, of course, I think at one point you realize there's always shit coming out of your ass, man. And you just got to deal with that. And you can't ruminate on it.
Right.
You just got to move on. You got to accept it.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the opposite of the one we had yesterday, Vampire, where it's like you got to face it, and you're just like, you just got to like, I mean, where he's like, you can run away from the bullshit. Yours is more like, no, you got to face it too. Let's talk Jet and Antonio for Glory Us. Antonio, you wrote the film and starred in it. Tell me about its origins. Like, where did this come from?
This question hits different when there's family in the audience.
Oh. Okay.
No, so I'll just be super transparent. I visited a glory hole. And I've always been really, as a queer person who grew up in a small town in a conservative area, I blossomed later in life. And part of the outcome of that is that I kind of had to formulate my own idea of what intimacy was, and like, where does sex fall in that? It took so long for me to do that. And I visited this man, and I went home and I wrote it because I just was struck by how I found quite a bit of intimacy in that environment that I was not expecting. So I went home, I sat down, 2 hours, wrote it out. A few days later, I saw Jet, we were grabbing lunch, I told her about it. She was like, let me read it. Do you have it on your phone? And I was like, sure. So she made me watch her read it, which was very stressful. And she was quite moved by the end, and I actually hadn't finished it. I didn't know how to end it. And I said, but what do you think? I don't have an ending. And she said, this is the ending. This is how you end it. I think this sort of follows your journey with intimacy and romance and, the little tragedies along the way. So I really wanted to explore the little tragedies that happen often with queer intimacy as you're trying to figure out what it means. And sometimes you go into a place of anonymity, and then you have feelings, and the question becomes, what do you do with that?
Yeah, I think you'd answered one of my follow-up questions, which was like, do you like, because it's an interesting movie that touches on the need for intimacy and how physical intimacy or a physical act can only provide so much. These days, people get lost in fake AI relationships, and and that are meant to feel real. So one things I was going to ask is like, do you see this situation in this film, like glory holes and the like, as an extension of a need for intimacy, or do you see it as a purely physical release?
I just love that we're talking about glory holes up here. There's something really magnificent about that in the music box here. This is really cool.
I talk to people.
It is a Sunday afternoon. What else are we talking about? We all just came from church. We got other things to talk about now.
Yeah, I mean, I think the answer is yeah. I think I kind of already said it. It really is much more about our search for intimacy and how sometimes you will find it in very unexpected places that will surprise you. And that has been my lesson, I think, like as a sexual being, as an adult, is I don't know anything. And so sometimes you just gotta have an open mind no matter where you are.
And Chad, when you came aboard to direct this, did you just kind of see it all there in the script, or were there any changes that you thought needed to be made, or?
Yeah, I think Antonio and I have a very close relationship, and I think that he's been a little bit of a guru for me in terms of what intimacy can be and what I think non-traditional connections look and feel like. And I know that Antonio is has the biggest heart, and he's taught me that romance and sex can coexist or not, and that doesn't make you a bad person. So I think in terms of my connection to the script, I understood it, and I felt it, and I knew what he was trying to say because I know him, and I know that we have very similar relationship philosophies. And I think we just made it as simply as possible, economically as possible, and with a focus on relationship. And we changed some lines here and there, and he was very open to if I was saying, oh, this isn't working, I don't think we need these lines, cutting it, and even up until in the edit, cutting some more as well.
Yeah. Your cinematographer, Emma Pillsbury, who's here.
She's here today.
Deserves some praise, a lot of praise for this one. Tell me about the design of the film and and the overall look of it. It's really striking how you take this average, ordinary apartment and really made it look like cinema.
Yeah, thanks for saying that. I think that it's challenging to make an apartment feel exciting. And when you're limited with that, as many people are, that's my apartment, by the way. Shout out to Saskia, our production designer as well. She made my apartment look better than it ever did, and it still looks like that, thanks to her. So it was my way of getting a free interior designer. But I think, Em and I both love photography, and we really wanted to focus on composition and work with the space as opposed to against the space. And so we were just focused on how can we make the space as interesting and different from scene to scene and get as much, get the most bang for our buck with what we had. And I thought we were really inventive with it. I made a lot of lemonade out of those lemons.
Yeah, great. It's a beautiful looking movie, and I think it ties in well. It plays well back to back with homemade Gatorade.
A lot of holes is the connection here. Yeah.
Both movies touch on interacting with somebody you can't see, and you think you know them, but you're not really sure. So Carter, I want to start with the acting, because I think people might look at this and think it's an easy task for you both to act in this. That this is like just a screen-based film like we've had in the last few years. But tell me how you put together in particular your character, your voice, as the person on the phone.
Yeah, this character in the film that I played, I actually first did in some smaller videos back in the early 2020s, and I was just very interested in this character that is like an internet beast, you know, someone who has this kind of like feral, like feminine id. And I was like, I actually found that like doing that voice was, it was pretty early in my transition, and it was like very helpful for me to like just kind of like explore like the most like absurdly cartoonish, shrill, feminine parts of my voice, and then like kind of meet in the middle to like actually find where I want to talk normally. But yeah, it's a tough vocal performance to do because like I really have to like bug my eyes out and like it's crazy. Yeah, it was the main character Daniela is voiced by my wife Lauren, who's here, and yeah, it was really fun to get the like performances because I just kind of directed her over the course of like 2 hours, and that was just like one take. That was like the whole thing, and the other performances were vocal recordings from my friends that they would just like send me over Discord. I would send them instructions, and they would send me like some like webcam audio, and then I would be like, perfect, I'm changing nothing. So yeah.
The animation style is very unique. So tell me about how you accomplished the look for this film. And
yeah, I've over the past few years been doing a lot of like photo collage type stuff. So it's like I'll use like photos that I find on the internet, and I'll like use photos from my actual life. A lot of the characters, like, their bodies are just my body, and then I make a new face to go over at the top of it, and like, yeah, edit it all together. And I like to put like really intense like filters and effects on it. So like, like sometimes I'll just get like an interesting picture of mold, and I'll just like filter that over it. And, like, I just like really like to enhance like the scuzzy dirtiness of it. But yeah, I just like I take a bunch of like still photos and then like bring that into After Effects and make them move.
Yeah, I think the main character does something we all do often, which is to judge someone by the content they post. And before we decide we want to interact with them, and then go ahead, like this woman that the main character's interacted with, we kind of gather she's probably liberal, a little strange, but probably harmless. And I think we all fall into that trap at some point with social media interaction. Is this based on any kind of real life experience that you had?
I mean, I like to like find people that I think are kind of crazy online, and just like try to find what makes them tick, And so like I was like, I think it's funny to try to like assemble characters that are just like really like a ton of things that don't fit together, and just like let that sit, because I feel like a lot of people who don't really have like a coherent ideology, it's like you see what they think and you're like, oh, I wouldn't have expected that, But the actual like impetus of the short was I at one point like was trying to find a standing desk, and I found this standing desk on Facebook Marketplace that was like really cheap, really cheap, and it was like new in box, and I messaged the person. I was like, is this still available? And the guy responded immediately and was like, yes, meet me in 45 minutes. It's just like I was like, okay, like, and I was like, is this address right? And he didn't respond. And so then I was like, I looked at the address and I was like, it's 45 minutes away. Like, I gotta go right now. And I went there, and he didn't show up for a half hour, and I was like worried that something, like I made a terrible mistake. And then he showed up and he was like, sorry, I had to like pick up my kid. And he gave me this standing desk, and I was like, it was so in such good quality. I was like, this has to be like illegally procured. And I just went home, and I was just like thinking about like how many bad ways that could have gone. So.
Yeah, I think I've had that experience too. Mine was Craigslist, but it was the same thing. Yeah, this could have gone south really bad. I want you to know, because I've seen this movie dozens of times. I've seen all these movies dozens of times when I put these together. And at one point, I started noticing this recurring numbers of 1 and 3 in there a lot. And I was like, I wonder it's this weird sort of thing that makes it even more unsettling. You don't have to talk about if that was on purpose or if I saw too much. Or...
Maybe I love those numbers, I don't know.
Oh, okay. There's some like reoccurring number thing going on throughout the whole thing, and I was like, that is so brilliant. And I don't know if anyone's going to catch on the first viewing, and I don't think you caught it either. I don't know. All right, well, thank you so much, Stephen, Jet, Antonio, Carter. Thank you so much.